The morning it all changed began like every other quiet dawn, with fog clinging to the cracked sidewalks and the city still half asleep. A tired single father pushed a squeaking stroller with one hand and balanced a paper cup of coffee in the other, unaware that this ordinary walk, this small, forgotten kindness repeated every morning, was about to collide with a truth so heavy it would shake his entire world. He had no idea that before the sun fully rose, lawyers would step out of black cars, 4 bodyguards would fan out like shadows, and a secret buried in routine would finally be revealed. If you believe that kindness still matters, that second chances can change lives, and that the smallest acts often carry the greatest weight, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only grow when people who believe in humanity stand together. Every morning for 3 years, Daniel walked the same route through the old district, past shuttered shops and faded murals, toward the bus stop that would take him to his construction job. His life had narrowed to survival after his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him alone with a 5-year-old daughter and a mountain of bills. Sleep came in fragments, and joy felt like something that belonged to another lifetime. Yet every morning, without fail, he slowed his steps near the same park bench where an elderly man sat wrapped in a thin coat, hands trembling slightly as he stared at the street like he was waiting for a past that never returned. Daniel never asked questions. He simply offered a coffee, sometimes a sandwich, sometimes just his presence. It wasn't charity to him, it was habit, stitched into his mornings like breathing. The old man never spoke much. He nodded, accepted the food with careful dignity, and watched Daniel's daughter smile at pigeons. There was something heavy in his eyes, something unfinished, as if the world had once demanded everything from him and then quietly walked away. Daniel sensed it but never pressed. His own pain had taught him that some stories only open when they are ready. So he kept giving, even when money was tight, even when his alarm rang too early, even when coworkers told him he was foolish to waste kindness on strangers who could disappear overnight. Life for Daniel was not heroic, it was exhausting. Construction shifts left his hands cracked and bleeding, and evenings were spent helping with homework under flickering lights while worrying about red notices. Some days he skipped meals so his daughter wouldn't notice the cupboards thinning. Yet in that small morning ritual, offering warmth to someone forgotten, he felt briefly whole. It reminded him that he was still capable of goodness, still more than a man trying not to drown. Seasons changed, and the old man grew frailer. His coat thinned, his posture bent further, and sometimes Daniel worried he wouldn't be there the next morning. But he always was, like a stubborn echo refusing to fade. There was comfort in that constancy, a silent promise between 2 broken men who never needed words. Daniel didn't know that beneath the worn shoes and quiet nods lived a history of power, wealth, and betrayal that had once filled boardrooms and headlines. The morning the black cars arrived, the park felt wrong. Engines purred softly where birds usually chirped, and 4 men in dark suits stood rigid near the bench. Their eyes scanned the street with professional detachment. Daniel slowed, instinctively protective, his chest tightening. He worried the old man was in trouble, that someone was there to move him along, to erase his small existence from the park like trash swept from a floor. Fear sharpened into anger as 2 men approached him politely but firmly, asking him to wait. The old man stood with effort, leaning on the bench, his gaze fixed on Daniel with an intensity that felt unfamiliar. The lawyers introduced themselves with measured respect, explaining that the man Daniel had helped every morning was not who he appeared to be. He was once the founder of a multinational company, a man whose name still echoed in financial corridors. Years ago, after a bitter legal betrayal by family and partners, he had walked away from everything, choosing obscurity over endless war. Pride kept him silent. Shame kept him alone. He had come to this park to sit, to remember, to decide whether life still had meaning. Daniel's world tilted. The coffee cup shook in his hand as disbelief clashed with memory. The frayed coat, the trembling hands, the quiet nods, none of it felt like an act. The lawyers explained that for years they had searched, tracking rumors and false leads, until a private investigator noticed a pattern. A single father, always the same route, always stopping. Kindness, it turned out, left trails. The old man's health had worsened, and he had finally allowed help, but on one condition: the man who treated him like a human being when he had nothing would be present. For the first time, emotion cracked through the old man's composed exterior. His eyes glistened as he reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper worn thin from handling. It was a list, dates, small notes, each marking a morning Daniel had come, rain or shine. Proof that he had been seen. What followed felt unreal. The lawyers explained arrangements already in motion, medical care, protection, and a legal decision that would alter Daniel's life. The old man had amended his will months earlier, leaving a significant trust not just for charities, but specifically for the man who had restored his faith without ever asking for anything in return. It wasn't payment. It was gratitude made tangible. Daniel's first instinct was refusal. Pride rose, mixed with fear of strings attached. He had been disappointed too many times to trust miracles. But the old man's gaze held him steady, heavy with sincerity. This was not about money. It was about legacy. About ensuring that the kindness given freely would ripple forward, touching a child, a future, a life that still had chapters left to write. The days that followed moved fast, yet slowly at the same time. Media attention buzzed at the edges, but the old man shielded Daniel from the noise. Paperwork was signed, accounts opened, and for the first time in years, Daniel slept through the night. He paid off debts quietly, moved into a modest home near a good school, and reduced his work hours so he could be present for his daughter. But what changed him most wasn't financial relief, it was the lifting of a constant weight he hadn't realized was crushing his spirit. The old man passed away peacefully months later, surrounded not by executives or estranged family, but by the single father and child who had unknowingly given him his final sense of belonging. At the small memorial, there were no speeches about profits or power. Only stories of quiet mornings, shared coffee, and dignity restored. Daniel stood there, humbled by how little it had taken to change everything. Life didn't become perfect. Grief still visited. Challenges still arrived. But Daniel moved through the world differently now, aware that every small act carried unseen consequences. He started a foundation in the old man's name, focused on helping families struggling silently, not with handouts alone, but with respect. The park bench was restored with a plaque that didn't mention wealth or success, only a simple truth about kindness given without expectation. As the camera of this story slowly pulls back, the city waking once again, it becomes clear that the real inheritance wasn't money or security. It was the reminder that humanity survives in routines, in unnoticed moments, in mornings when someone chooses compassion over indifference. Daniel never became famous, and he didn't want to. He became something better. A living proof that goodness, even when ignored, is never wasted. If this story touched something inside you, if it reminded you of a moment when kindness changed your path or someone else's, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. And before the ending fades, leave a comment telling us where you believe kindness matters most, in families, in strangers, or in everyday routines. Because somewhere, right now, a small act is waiting to be noticed.